On this episode of Dead Interesting, what does running buffalo clover, an American president, and an Ohio river town all have in common? Find out next. This is running buffalo clover, an endangered plant native to Ohio, and this is Congress Green Cemetery. Congress Green overlooks the Ohio River and was originally founded as a pasture graveyard on land owned by our 9th president, William Henry Harrison's family. On a spring day in 1878, the family and friends of John Scott Harrison huddle around his grave to pay their respects and to lay him to rest. John Scott was a member of the United States House of Representatives in the 1850s. He is also notable for who he was related to. He was the only man in U.S. history to be both the son and the father of a United States president. His father was the 9th president, William Henry Harrison, who died after only 30 days in office. His son was the 23rd president, Benjamin Harrison. In addition, he was the grandson of one of the founding fathers and a signer of the Declaration of Independence, Benjamin Harrison. While the Harrison family was saying their final goodbyes, they discovered that the body of a family friend, Augustus Devon, who had been laid to rest the week before, was missing. Augustus was the victim of body snatchers. Body snatching was a fairly common practice in the 1800s. Medical schools needed more cadavers than they could legally get their hands on. Enter the resurrectionists, men who would rob recently filled graves and sell the bodies to the medical schools. In light of the situation with Augustus, many preparations were taken for the grave of John Scott Harrison. These measures included building a brick vault, filling the grave with a stone so heavy that it took the weight of 16 men to lift, covering the grave with cement, and hiring a guard to keep watch over the grave for 30 days or longer. The next day, his son and grandson, John Harrison and George Easton, went into Cincinnati armed with a search warrant and began searching through the medical colleges. An article in the Morning Cincinnati Enquirer stated witnesses saw a buggy drop off a body at the back alley of the medical college. Their search would start there. At the Ohio Medical College, they had nearly given up when they found a chute that led to an alley at the back of the college. A taut rope indicated that something heavy was hanging below. The men started pulling the rope and found a naked body of a man tied at the bottom, a cloth covering the head of the man. A newspaper article describes the scene. John knelt down to the floor to get a closer look at the man's face. John's face suddenly drained of color, and he looked like he might fall to the floor. "It's father!" he exclaimed. The group had found not the body of Augustus Devon, but the body of John Scott Harrison, who had been laid to rest only the day before. John Scott Harrison was the victim of resurrectionists. The outrage over this act and a changing attitude about death contributed to the passage of the Ohio Anatomy Law of 1881. This law increased the penalties for grave robbing and allowed unclaimed bodies to be donated to medical schools, which discouraged grave robbing. In time, this led to the invention of the metal ground vaults that caskets are placed into today. After being temporarily interred at Spring Grove Cemetery, John Scott Harrison was eventually interred in his father's tomb in North Bend, Ohio, across the street from Congress Green Cemetery, where he first began his eternal rest. We find that dead interesting.